Gentlemen, I love to laugh, and I got to tell you, I just finished laughing very hard with two of my brothers here. Let me tell you where I am right now. I'm in Gig City. Do you even know what Gig City is? I didn't. Gig City is Chattanooga, Tennessee. And let me tell you, they've got it going on here in Chattanooga. And right now, I'm in the center of the Innovation Center, right? With two excellent brothers helping me put together a higher quality video for you. As you know, 2 years ago, we started the Authentic Masculinity Project. And when we started it, we had no idea where it was going to go. We're in the middle right now of re-recording some content which I did 2 years ago. And I got to tell you, I just reviewed an old video, and I'll let you know that the technical quality may not be as good, but I'm very happy with the content. So with your permission, and I'm going to presume that I've got it, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and listen to a video we did 2 years ago. It's a little bit more gritty, but I think it's a little more authentic, if I can use that term. We're going to talk a little bit about your role as priest in your own life and how to be, we'll say, better. So we're going to cut to that in just a moment. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in just a moment. Here we go. Let's do it again. I'm here in the truck. It's a beautiful, beautiful Sunday, early Sunday afternoon. We've already covered the introduction to this series. We talked yesterday about the prince aspect. So we're talking prince, priest, prophet, protector, and provider. And the one we're on right now for why you matter as a man is priest. Now, I was thinking about this last night as I was preparing. Most of the questions I'm going to ask you to ask yourself pertain to how you see yourself, and sort of it's an interior discussion. But remember, if you go back and read the article we wrote about the 5 Ps, the world needs men in each of these 5 realms. The world needs men to assert themselves. They need us to assert ourselves in a role of authority. The world needs men to assert themselves in the realm of the spiritual. The world needs us to assert ourselves in the realm of the educational, that's the prophet. The world needs us to assert ourselves as protectors and providers. Everybody benefits when men play up and get back in the game intentionally. So let's talk a little bit about the spiritual, but let's remember that this isn't, it starts with you, but it's not about you. It starts with me, but it's not about me. I have to make sure my house is in order spiritually so that I can be better for those around me. That's really what it's all about. And if men live their masculinity in these 5 spheres, then I think what we're going to find is slowly but surely the quality of the world around us will start to improve. All right. Let's look at the questions we want to ask ourselves. Where's my other set of notes? Oh, my goodness. I'm a mess today. Not really. Under the priest, we're going to say, all right, first of all, if you have a hesitation about discussing matters of spirituality, some men do, I'm going to ask you to set that concern aside for right now. It's just you talking with me talking to you about these questions. I would say let your barriers down, let your guard down, and prepare a little bit to think about things that are spiritual. The spiritual has to do with anything outside ourselves that's of a higher nature. You'll hear someone talk about a higher moral order. We say God, right? If you don't have some sort of a spiritual framework, my recommendation is, if that's your decision, make sure it's an intentional decision that you yourself are making as a man. If you're over 15, 16, 17 years old, it's a serious question to ask yourself. What is my spiritual framework? And that'll bring us to our first question of the 5 critical questions on the spiritual of being a priest for those you love and lead. Who am I spiritually? Right? I am a Roman Catholic. I feel privileged to be on that journey. I feel like that's a great gift that's been given to me as a Roman Catholic. That's my personal conviction. It's how I live my life, and I try to hold myself to that standard. You may be a different denomination of Christian. You may be of the Jewish faith. You may be a Muslim. You may be a Hindu. You may be any number of different religions, and any one of those. The key is, whatever you believe, believe it and practice it to the best of your ability. I'm an amateur at Roman Catholicism. I'm learning. I learn every day. I think most of us would say that about ourselves when it comes to what we believe. But I would just say to you, whatever you believe it with conviction, practice it, study it, and live it to the best of your ability. So who are you spiritually? Who am I spiritually? Be very clear about that question. Number 2,
So for number one, we're saying, who are you spiritually? How do you see yourself? Do you know what your own spiritual foundation is? And is it important to you? If it isn't important to you, you may want to ask yourself why. And if it isn't important to you, then be very conscious and deliberate about that and say, at this point in my life, that's not something that's really of a high priority to me. If you do decide to check that sort of at the door, that's all right. But recognize that that might not be what other people do around you. So be aware that to others, it might be an intensely important time for them spiritually. What are you spiritually? What would others say about you? This is important because we have to have a relatively clear idea of what others' perceptions about us are, because our reputation is important. Now, on the subject of reputation, we'll be talking about it, and we talk about it at some length in our 48 Laws of Power series. Reputation is important. You should know what it is. Don't worry too much about what other people think, but be aware of what other people think and what they say about you spiritually, because that can give us some good insights into where we are. Are you a man of introspection? Are you a man of prayer? Are you a man of reflection? The idea here is never to showboat your religion. Don't treat it as a public display done for public display. That's a very dangerous slope to be on. But recognize that our private actions have public consequences, and how we think of others is usually a reflection of our spiritual, or what we think of others is usually a reflection of our spiritual framework. Take some time to know yourself, ask yourself the hard questions. Life, death, consequences, right? What do you believe will happen to you when you die? No matter what you believe, it's important to ask that question. In this case, I would tell you, the questions are more important than the answers. Ask the question, go through that process. So who, what, where are you on your spiritual journey? What sorts of experiences have you had? Have you confronted death? Have you been around death with others? This can be a formative thing. Have you seen a lot of births of babies? A birth of a baby can be a very spiritual experience. You may have experienced the spiritual in nature. That happens a lot. If you've been in the middle of the ocean at night during a storm, that's a very, very scary time. It can make you feel very insignificant. And frequently, when we feel the most insignificant, not in a bad way, but in a good way, we tend to see the world around us in a broader spiritual framework. I would ask you to ask yourself, have you had these sorts of experiences? All men must be willing to confront life, the reality of their death, and the consequences of their actions. Ask yourself at the end of every day, how have I been doing based on my own set of criteria? How have I been doing based on my own rules that I plan to live my life by? I'm going to take a break for a moment and look at the clock to make sure we're recording, all right? We are recording. I see us at 7 minutes and 25 seconds. I try to be respectful of your time, and I want to make sure I try to master this equipment. I'm very impressed by it. It's helping me a lot. Have you given this some thought? Why are you here? What is the purpose of your life? What will happen after you die? And what will be the consequences of your actions? Who, what, where are you on your spiritual journey? When is it in your life? Spiritually, are you a father and husband? Are you a single man? Do you seek to marry? Where are you on that road? Are you a widower? Have you loved someone and lost them? The reason this is important is frequently if you're going to marry, you want to make certain that the spiritual side of your life is clear to you, or if it's not clear to you, that you're open to the spiritual aspects of life for the woman you marry. This is important because you will want to embrace that with the woman you marry. Each of us leads the other in one way or another. And frequently, the women that we meet have a strong spiritual foundation. They likely are considering the reality of children. And once you have children, you have to confront all of the decisions you make because children ask a lot of tough questions. They're going to examine your actions in light of what you say you believe. And they won't give you any do-overs. Well, they'll give you do-overs in the sense that they're very forgiving, but they'll hold you accountable. And once you hear them asking you the tough questions, then you'll know, okay, I've got to do this the right way. So who, what, where, when, why? Why does it matter to you whether or not you have a spiritual framework? That's an important question. Why is spirituality important? Well, I would tell you, if you're a thinking man, and I would say we all are thinking men to one degree or another, this is the one you want to get right. Apply all of your reason, all of your intellect to getting this one right. Ask yourself, what do I believe spiritually? Where did the world come from? Where is the world going? These are the big questions. And if you apply yourself diligently and with some passion to getting that question answered, ask yourself what's true. What's true? Look around the world and ask yourself what is true. And then that will start a whole spiritual journey, which will take you some very unexpected places. If you're not a man of prayer, or if you're not a man of introspection, I would recommend setting some time aside at the beginning of each day, and we'll talk about this in other sessions. Set some time aside each day to do what some people call meditation. Meditation is nothing other than quietly thinking about the reality of your life. And you can look it up online. You can do many, many different sorts of studies about what meditation is. But you'll find that if you place yourself sort of in the presence of the spiritual, and you say, okay, for 5 minutes I'm going to be still. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to listen. You'll find yourself thinking about these questions with a little bit more intensity, a little bit more seriousness, and you will benefit from it. But I recommend not to overdo it. Stay active. Stay engaged. Remember that this is a part of your life that informs all the other parts. And it's all interlocking like so many of the things we talk about are. Now, if you're a father and husband, recognize that the children in your family look to you, and whatever you do is important. If you do it, by definition, it's important. And this is a powerful lesson to learn. Likewise, whatever you neglect is not important. So if you accept that, and it's logical, and it makes sense according to our common sense. Children look at the father. If the father does it, then the children think, this is important. Most children associate the softer, more forgiving aspects of love with their mother. Sort of broadly speaking. There are exceptions. But when it comes to the father, all right, if it's not your father, maybe it's your grandfather, we look at our fathers and we see them do things and we think to ourselves, okay, this is something Dad is taking time to do. I'll pay close attention to that. I'll take closer, better care of that. My own experience, when I saw my father pray, I didn't see it very often, but my father was a man of great prayerful intensity. And when he would pray, I could tell it was something that was very important to him. And it did affect me. And I think it probably you'll find, if you ask yourself this question, it has affected you as well. And again, it doesn't matter which religion you practice. It doesn't matter your spiritual framework. What matters is that you be aware of it and you make a conscious decision as a man, because it has powerful impact for those you love and lead. Now, how do you see, are those you love and lead proud of the man you are spiritually? Be aware of that. Be respectful. If you're not a believer of any particular religion, that's fine, of course. But be respectful of others' faiths. Be respectful of others' religions. It shows that you're respectful of other people. And those you love and lead will see that respect, and they'll see humility in you. And that can be a very powerful thing for them to see. I'm trying to think of anything else that you might find useful. I don't want to go on too long, but I will just recommend this. When I was a young man, I had a very close friend. I admired him because he held very fast to his set of principles. And he held fast to his set of principles in the face of a lot of temptation. And the temptations that were around us were temptations that most of us, myself included, tended to embrace. He used to ask this question: do you act like a man of thought, and do you think like a man of action? What I liked about those questions is it linked thought and action very closely together. And just saying it had a spiritual feel to it. And it made me think, it really made me think. Think like a man of action, act like a man of thought. You know, when we were talking the other day in the Prince aspect of the 5 categories of masculinity, I think I remember talking about Maximus in Gladiator, and he said, I am, father to a murdered child, husband to a murdered wife. That statement, that strong, dramatic statement, has a spiritual feel to it, don't you think? And I would just tell you that most of us recognize that is a big reality in the life of most men. And I would ask that you consider it as you go through this process. It's important. Well, that's all we have for you today on the spiritual side as priest. We're going to go next into prophet. Prophet is linked to priest, but the prophet aspect of a man's life has more to do with education and being a man of learning and literature and education for himself and those around him. What I would recommend you do is think like a man of action, act like a man of thought, be bold, be authentic, be masculine, and I'll see you on the high ground. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I hope that was helpful to you, and I'm very grateful for your willingness to take this time to listen to what we have to say. Now, I will note, we made a reference in that video to the man's role as prophet. Upon closer examination, we decided to pull that out because I want to make sure that we give it its due attention. And so we've set that aside for right now, and we'll be putting it back in when we're confident that the content is beneficial to you. So we'll let this one stand on its own. We're going to go to our next video, which will be we have prince, priest. We're going to go to provider. The provider is the next privilege that we as men get to serve. And I look forward to seeing you on that video. Thank you so much. Be bold, be authentic, be masculine, and drop in and see us at www.authenticmasculinity.com.